The tropical rainforest can be found in three major geographical areas around the world. 1. Central America in the Amazon River Basin. 2. Africa, Zaire Basin with a small area in West Africa, also eastern Madagascar. 3. Indo-Malaysia, west coast of India, Assam, Southeast Asia, New Guinea, and Queens Island, Australia.
It receives an average of 60 to 160 inches of precipitation over the year. There is usually one season which receives less rain and one which receives more. Rainforests belong to the tropical wet climate group. The temperature in a rainforest rarely gets higher than 93 degrees Fahrenheit or drops below 68 degrees Fahrenheit. The average humidity is usually between 77 and 88%.
Tropical rainforests contain the greatest biodiversity in the world. Over 15 million species of plant and animal life reside there, such as toucans, monkeys, sloths, jaguars, frogs and toads, butterflies, snakes, and much more.
A number of tribes in areas such as Central Africa and Brazil still live in rainforests, having no contact with the outside world.
Rainforests used to cover 14% of the Earth's surface, but due to deforestation, now only covers around 6%. But they are still home to more than half of the world's total plants and animal species.
The hot and humid conditions in the rainforest make an ideal environment for bacteria and microorganisms, which is why 1/4 of all medicines usually come from tropical plants.
There are 4 very distinct layers of trees in a tropical rainforest. These layers have been identified as the emergent, upper canopy, understory, and forest floor.
Emergent trees are spaced wide apart, and they are 100 to 240 feet tall with umbrella-shaped canopies that grow above the forest.
The upper canopy of 60 to 130-foot trees allows light to be easily available at the top of this layer, but greatly reduced any light below it.
The understory or lower canopy consists of 60-foot trees. This layer is made up of the trunks of canopy trees, shrubs, plants, and small trees.
The forest floor is usually completely shaded, except where a canopy tree has fallen and created an opening. Most areas of the forest floor receive so little light that few bushes or herbs can grow there. As a result, a person can easily walk through most parts of a tropical rainforest. Less than 1% of the light that strikes the top of the forest penetrates to the forest floor. The plants that grow below the canopy, such as mosses and ferns, adapt to the lack of sunlight and can grow quite well along the forest floor. The topsoil is very thin and of poor quality, only about 1 to 2 inches deep. The only reason plant life is so lush is because the plants store the nutrients in themselves rather than getting them from the soil. Plants grow so fast that they rapidly consume the nutrients from the decomposed leaf litter. As a result, most of the nutrients are contained in the trees and other plants rather than in the soil.
The most prevalent plants in the rainforest are trees. Trees make up at least 68% of the plants growing in the Amazon, according to the Rainforest Conservation Fund. More than 2,700 species of bromeliads, a family of monocot flowering plants, exist in the rainforest, including the pineapple. Another common rainforest plants include epiphytes, plants that never touch soil in the rainforest. Instead, these plants use the nutrients and resources of the trees they grow on to thrive. Lastly, the vine-like liana make up 8% of rainforest plants according to the Rainforest Conservation Fund. There are many different interactions found in the tropical rainforest.
Competition. An example of competition is between the cassowary and the toucan. The cassowary and the toucan both eat fruits, nuts, insects, and seeds in their habitat. Therefore, they need to compete. However, because the toucan has a larger beak, it has an advantage over the cassowary, just as the scarlet macaw would.
An example of parasitism is the strangler fig in the tree. Strangler figs are epiphytes that dwell on the nutrients of its host due to the competition of light in the rainforest. They originate in a nook or cranny of a tree through animal droppings. The fig plant grows slowly in the beginning, taking sun, rain, and nutrients from its hosts. Later, the roots grow downward. When it reaches the ground, it begins to grow thick roots and strangle the tree while they fuse together. Eventually, the host tree is deprived of sunlight and nutrients and dies. As a result, the fig tree has a hollow in the middle.
An example of commensalism is green algae and sloths. The sloth is an extremely slow animal, which makes it difficult for them to escape from predators. Fortunately, green algae grows on the sloth's fur, which helps them camouflage into their environment of many leaves and trees. This green algae is called Trichophilus welkeri and discolors the sloth's fur, giving it a distinct green color. This species of algae is most common in three-toed sloths.
Mutualism. An example of mutualism is between the agouti and the Brazilian nut tree. In the tropical rainforest, the agouti helps to spread the seeds of the Brazilian nut tree for the next generation. The agouti is a rodent that somewhat resembles a guinea pig. It is one of the only animals with teeth strong enough to crack open the Brazilian nut pods. As they eat these nuts and seeds, they scatter and bury some extra seeds underground, which eventually leads to the germination of the next generation of the Brazilian nut trees. These trees also depend on the Iglaucine bee to help it pollinate.
An example of predation is the giant anteater in ants. The giant anteater looks for ant hills and termite nests for food by smelling. Then, using their powerful claws, they tear the nest open and use their 2-foot-long tongues to start feeding. Their salivary glands produce saliva where the ants, termites, and insect eggs stick. Once the anteater swallows its meal, the strong digestive juices break down the insects. Anteaters can eat up to 30,000 insects a day.